Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and look, it's Austin, the day goes.
What's up?
And once again, we have an apropos movie for Austin's name, because we're going to talk about a movie with the ghost with the most, and Austin is the day ghost with the most. Tonight, we're going to watch the original Beetlejuice. So if you have already seen Beetlejuice, in the theaters right now, please do us a big favor and don't spoil anything yet. I'm going to see it this weekend. I haven't been yet. And the verdict is still out on whether Austin's going to go. He's been back and forth on it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for people that I know, like Cap, to be like, go see it, or don't.
I think I'm worried I've let myself get my hopes up on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about it, and then and I don't mean that I'm suddenly down on it, but a couple of details I found out about recently have me going, oh, okay, I don't know, but how I feel about that, but I think it looks really fun.
Yeah, either way, Michael Keaton will be great. It's just everything around it, I don't know. We'll see.
So anyway, we figured there was no more appropriate time, obviously, to finally do a commentary on Beetlejuice. I've not done a ton of material on this movie. Jason and I did a father and son a couple 3 years back on this, and he's a big fan of this movie. I wish he was here. He's out of town this weekend, but he is going to review the new one with me on probably Monday is the plan right now, dating this commentary. But folks that just want to know what the schedule is, we're gonna try to review that Monday night with Connor, me and Connor and Jason. And if Austin has nothing better to do this weekend and ends up seeing it, he's invited too, of course, but it will probably be the three of us. And Austin, thanks for agreeing to jump off the normal superhero bandwagon and go ahead and do this time. We've been doing the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project weekly now, which has been great, getting more of those out. So we haven't had as much time for watch parties and things, and I figured we'd take just a week break from it. Maybe every couple of months on a Friday we'll do some other kind of movie. And that's not to say that there won't be a different night that occasionally we'll come in and do a watch party if we've both got the time to do it. But we really got to focus on the superhero thing if it's going to make sense for us to keep claiming that we're going to try to do all of them.
Mm-hmm. Although I have to say, Cap, with how often you date your commentaries, you should just marry them at this point.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not committed enough with this relationship. It's time to put a ring on it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, as always, you know the spiel if you want to watch it with us, and we encourage you to do that, but I know a lot of you guys won't. You'll just listen to us talk about it. We'll try not to create too much dead air as we go. Bring up your DVD, Blu-ray, streaming service, Amazon, however you want to watch it. Get it to timestamp 0. I'm going to be watching it through Max. It is available there right now. And Austin, I always appreciate it when a movie is actually available on a streaming service right as the sequel is coming out. There's nothing more irritating than, and you have to pay to watch it if you're already subscribed to all these streaming services before the sequel comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding. I'm guessing Max is probably like, look, it's Beetlejuice. Because that's what Crave is like right now here. So I'm assuming Max is doing the same thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen huge banners for it or anything, but it is one of the earlier things that they show you in, groups of things.
Oh, okay. Like even here, it's like the top 10 movies to watch. Number 1, Beetlejuice.
Well, No, that's fair. You know, they're doing their big ad campaign. One thing you can't say about this movie, about two, is that they haven't marketed it well. It's been all over the place.
Oh my god, it's been everywhere. Yeah.
And the commercial tie-ins have been crazy. Like, there's so much of it. It's kind of like, have you seen the CarMax commercials?
No, I think the only thing like that I've seen is that like Hot Ones video.
Yeah, which is great. You're right. They have had some cool viral stuff, but they've had a lot of product tie-ins, and it feels like, you know, real old school Blockbuster with all the tie-ins they've had. And they've got a CarMax thing that's, maybe it's not playing in Canada because it's been in front of every movie I've seen in the theater for the last couple of months.
Oh, it probably is because I also don't know what CarMax is, so
Oh,
it
okay.
must be an American thing.
Yeah, it's just a rental company, but they have they have this commercial where they make up a fake CarMax that's Beetlemax, and it's like Beetlemax is bad. You don't want that. You want CarMax, and it's like has his own like car rental place.
Okay. Did they cut to like footage of Beetlejuice where it's like supposed to be like him talking about the cars, but it's
No,
just
that'd be
a
great.
movie?
Keaton isn't anywhere to be found.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like with everything else with this movie, they're selling it really hard on the shrunken head guy. The shrunken head guy is everywhere.
But it's probably because it's not an actor. They can just slap him in anything.
Yeah, and they can put anybody in that getup.
That's what I mean. I guess I shouldn't say that's not an actor because obviously there's an actor in that suit.
But you're right.
But
They don't have to get whoever they've got on set. It could be anybody.
yeah, it's like how you see a lot of Star Wars stuff use the droids to advertise things in commercials.
Oh, good call. Yeah. Or with Batman, the Batmobile.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
They should bring the Batmobile back for that.
You just get the car.
It's Beetlemax and the Batmobile.
But the one thing I think is kind of fun with the Beetlemax thing is they've got you know how car companies will sell will have like a balloon guy like outside of the building. So they have a Beetlejuice balloon guy.
You know what?
That's
what
pretty
the
funny.
commercial should be though.
What's that?
Is somebody walking around like the shop floor where they have all the model cars, and then somebody's like, "Oh, nice effing model."
Yeah, that'd be great.
They wouldn't do that because it's a commercial, but
You know, I'm a little bit embarrassed about that. I think we all have those quotes that we misremember forever. Where we get like that one word wrong, and then when we see the movie again, we're like, "Oh, great! It's my favorite line," and I've been saying it wrong all this time. Beetlejuice is not a movie I go back to a lot, and I don't know it super well. We'll talk about our backgrounds with this movie, of course, but my favorite line is the model line, and I always remember it as great effing model, but it's not. It's nice effing model. I've been saying it wrong all this time.
yeah, that's a line that surprises me every time because I forget there's an F-bomb.
Yeah, it surprised me too. When I watched it with Jason for that father and son, and then it stuck with me after that because I thought it was so funny. I couldn't stop laughing at it.
Although
So I was
actually,
waiting for it this time.
now that I think about it, most of the times I've seen this movie have been on TV, so it was probably cut. That's probably why it's not a line I remember. That's probably it. He probably just goes, "Nice model." Uh-oh, did we disconnect?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh,
Apologies.
okay. I know I got worried there. I was like, uh-oh.
I was just saying, I hope there are TV edits of that movie that put in the most distracting possible word, though.
I hope so, because those are my favorite TV edits.
Or it's like fishing model or
It's a completely different voice.
nice freaking model.
Yeah.
Donnie St. Pierre put in a $10 super chat. Really appreciate it, man. He says, "This is one of my favorite movies ever. Super excited about this. Just got home from the new one. First reaction was, I need to have a kid just so I can sacrifice it to Tim Burton. Loved it. That's great.
I mean, you can start now.
I hope I don't like it that much. because I have, my firstborn is really excited about seeing it, and it would be unfortunate if I felt the need to sacrifice him to the film.
Yeah, but you have to be like, Jason, you really want to see this, so you're willing to be sacrificed for it. You understand.
Dan Schneider says Cap has enough commentaries for a harem. I have enough commentaries for many, many harems if they were, all women, I guess. Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. Have you ever noticed there is a genre of fast-talking comedic supernatural characters? That's true. The Mask, Disney Genie, Beetlejuice, and more. There's a lot. Well, and off camera, when we were talking about doing this, Austin, I want to say it was you that suggested that this seemed like kind of a prototype Jim Carrey performance.
No, that was Connor.
Oh, it was Connor that said that. That's right. Apologies. I've talked to a couple people
whatever
about
review you guys just did. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, no, that's it came up on The Crow. That's what it was.
The Crow. Thank you. I already forgot that movie. That movie exists.
But I think he's right about that.
Yeah, there's definitely elements of that in him.
Yeah. It had not occurred to me before that Jim Carrey might have been looking back on Michael Keaton performances. And not just that, there are a few comedies that he does that feel like they could have been Jim Carrey performances in a different universe, where Michael Keaton got his film career started earlier than Jim Carrey did. And then Keaton very quickly went off on a different trajectory and wasn't continuing those sillier, more farcical roles, though occasionally he would come back and do some kind of a goofball comedy, or a comedy of some kind. It's weird, like the range he has, and Jim Carrey has range as an actor too. But it's weird in comedy the range Michael Keaton has, because sometimes he'll do the full-on goofy slapstick thing, and sometimes he is kind of the straight man.
No, Keaton's got a lot of range as an actor,
and he might be the least typecast person of his fame and caliber ever.
I feel like he goes through different eras of typecasting. Weirdly enough,
maybe so. Maybe so.
Where it's like he's like a comedic guy for a little bit, but like definitely not the same thing. And then I feel like once he comes back, he's like typecast in things like the RoboCop remake, where it's kind of like the Harrison Ford thing, where you go, okay, now you're like the serious stern guy, but he's also kind of broken out of that too.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I guess part of why I'm saying that early in his career, we'll go ahead and get into the movie here pretty soon. This movie, by the way, is only an hour and a half long, so it will fly by, I'm sure, as we're talking through it. But Austin, it's interesting that he's getting mostly comedic roles through the 80s. And then, of course, he's got things like Clean and Sober. Have you ever seen that movie? That is a fascinating movie.
No, I haven't.
You got things like that where it's a more dramatic role and it's a real serious movie, but he's still having to bring that kind of manic comic energy to it in order to make that movie work. So like he's already in a bunch of different kinds of things, and then he does Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom, and then he gets Batman, and I feel like because of that, everybody was very confused about what kind of an actor this guy is, because when he was announced for Batman, a lot of people, of course, were booing and freaking out, and that has happened with nearly every casting for Batman. And people are like, well, that's crazy. He's just a comedy guy. It would be like if in the mid '90s Jim Carrey was cast as Batman. That's how weird and off the beaten path it was for people. And then after he gets that, and a lot of people feel like it works. After that, I think it's really splintered the way people think of him. He's not thought of as the comedy guy anymore. And like Jim Carrey never fully falls out of that, even though he's got lots of dramatic roles in a period where he's doing more dramatic stuff, where people recognize he is good at that stuff, but he's still always going to be. When you think of Jim Carrey, you're always going to think comedy. When you think Michael Keaton, you may not.
No, I feel like most people would think Batman or Beetlejuice. So it's like
at this point, yeah,
one of the two, yeah.
When I say at this point, I mean like that was only a few years into his career.
I want to see him do another Tarantino movie because he's really good in Jackie Brown, and I think his role in that had a spin-off, but I've never seen it.
Dan Stin says Mr. Mom was early on. Oh, that's right. I always think of that as later. My mistake. He says his only major role before that was Night Shift.
which we talked about, and
which we have
the
done on
theme song
request.
of that movie will not leave my head.
Yeah,
It's like
you and I enjoyed that movie quite a bit.
yeah, I like that movie quite a bit.
It's a mixed bag, but once again, we're a broken record.
Yeah.
He's great in it.
Hmm. No, it's a fun movie, and that theme song is killer. I think about it like every week.
But yeah, the history with this and Batman are weird because it turns out I read this today that Tim Burton was working with Sam Hamm on a Batman script right after he made Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and they couldn't get it bankrolled right away. Famously, it took a while to get that movie off the ground, and they had already been trying to get it off the ground even before they went to Tim Burton. And so while that was happening, Burton was just looking around for another project and wasn't impressed with a lot of the scripts that he was getting. They just weren't imaginative enough for him, and he finally grabbed onto this. So it's really fortuitous that Michael Keaton ends up getting Batman, because if he had made Batman next like he was trying to, it wouldn't have been Michael Keaton.
Hmm. I guess also it's a little bit Batman is burden breaking out of the comedic thing too.
That's true too. Until Returns.
Yeah. But I mean, like, he did Pee-wee and then Beetlejuice and then Batman, unless there's something in between them that I'm not thinking
that's
of.
it.
Yeah,
and then it's Scissorhands right after that.
Yeah, I thought that was after, but I wasn't entirely sure.
I don't know why I didn't save some of this for the actual movie, but we'll go ahead and watch it. Get your movie rigged up to timestamp 0. I've got the clock there on the screen, and interact with us as we go along. Help us direct the conversation. We appreciate you guys watching live. Thanks for watching after the fact if you're doing that as well. We'll be back to the superhero thing next week, but right now we're going to take a break and talk about Beetlejuice. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. So right away, the Belafonte choice is so random and weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot it played a little bit during the logo there.
Yeah, they build the whole tone of the movie around it.
Mm-hmm.
And that idea of there being a musical motif that held the whole movie together was apparently there in the early drafts, but it was supposed to be other things. And originally, the song that was supposed to play at the very end would have been When a Man Loves a Woman.
What? Oh my god, I'm glad we didn't end up with that.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
But it's so interesting because you have yet another wonderful, memorable, quirky, and out there Danny Elfman soundtrack. You don't need incidental music in this at all, but it really changes the flavor of it.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's a big thing everyone remembers. That's one thing I'm worried about with the second one is they're going to try to recreate the Deo scene, aren't they?
Probably so. And the question is, do they go to some other style of music, or do they keep going with the Belafonte thing? Mm-hmm. Like, the more I think you and I just talked about this off camera, but I don't want to talk too much about the new one because it's out already, and we'll talk about that soon. We haven't seen it yet, but
yeah.
The more I think about the point you made to me that it would have been nice if we had just had Beetlejuice going to some other totally different cast of characters, the more I wish that's what they had done. Because you're just inviting all these direct comparisons, and you're going to recreate things naturally by going back to those well of characters. As nice as it'll be to see that cast again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just feel like this should be an anthology if it's going to be a series.
Dan's Den makes a good choice, or a good point, pardon me. He says it helps that it's an older recording, too. That adds to the quirkiness of it and to the timeless feeling of this, which is a big recurring idea throughout Tim Burton's films. Is he doesn't like anything to feel exactly like the time that it is. So this is, very much the 1980s, but it's a weird, once removed kind of 1980s.
Yeah, and it just works for these characters who are very much old, and that's why they clash so much with like the new yuppies that move in.
Yeah, and that creates a nice contrast where they're just fuddy duddies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the correct term for this couple.
Yeah, better than just they're old.
They're just fuddy duddies.
I like to think that this is Gina Davis after The Fly. She's like, okay, I dated a fly, and I'm gonna be a funny duddy.
That's
Went to the
awesome.
country. I don't want to go through that again.
Well, we talked about this when we did a commentary on The Fly that she has, and we actually prepared for that. It wasn't an on the fly commentary on the fly, but it was but we had a conversation about how she has this odd look to her that's perfect for these kind of offbeat uh, comedies and horror movies, because The Fly's not really a horror movie, but it is uh, it is offbeat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Gina Davis, and it's mostly for this movie and that movie.
And I felt weird saying that because it's not like she's unattractive. She just has a really unique, different look to her that's hard to even describe.
Yeah, I agree with that. Very like unique in that.
So let me ask you this, just right out the gate: is there any
Yeah.
part of you that wishes that this movie was rough around the edges, or more violent, more
Like one of those gateway family horror movies.
Yeah, I do too.
But I didn't realize that it was supposed to be a little bit more hardcore.
Yeah, the death of this couple was supposed to be a lot more violent. She was supposed to like break her arm in the crash and be like screaming bloody murder. And Beetlejuice was supposed to be a much more malevolent character, who tries to straight up murder the people that move into the house, and he wanted to get not marriage from the girl, but sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's already like
from
a film
Lydia.
producer with all that stuff.
Yeah, but that's weirdly toned down from what it
was
almost
supposed to be.
Yeah, like
That's interesting.
There are flashes for me even with the movie that we have of Beetlejuice himself, of a guy that might have been a like quirky serial killer type, where like he's fun and he's silly, but he's really terrifying and menacing. I think there's, if they'd gone closer to the first draft script with this, it might have been a little bit closer to like a Nightmare on Elm Street or something.
I was about to say that. I wonder if it maybe would have been called out as being like kind of a knockoff of Freddy.
Yeah. There are things about this movie that feel kind of compromised to me, and I think, oddly, this is one of those few cases where that's a lot of why it resonates and is as popular as it is. I think this would have been just a cult classic had it gone to those places and been that rough. It ends up being a lot more accessible. But you're right. What you said about it being a gateway. That's
but like that is kind of the gateway for young kids.
Yeah, or at the very least, just appreciate some of that like macabre subject matter that shows up in things that aren't necessarily super horrific and terrifying. And movies like this and Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline and stuff like that are for kids and families that have those sensibilities and like that imagery and subject matter, but don't want to be scared or don't need a lot of blood and gore and something.
Dan Sten said that his interpretation of Beetlejuice comes from the cartoon where he and Lydia are friends. So to see this movie later as a kid was shocking.
I bet a lot of kids had that.
I'm sure they did.
And I bet, by the way, the dog on the board that drops off, and that's the reason they fall into the water, I think that's so funny. And
oh, yeah, it's really funny.
And it's one of the most Tim Burton moves in this movie. I feel like he does stuff like that a lot, where it's like there's that one like piece that you move that makes everything fall apart. It's great. I love how much economy there is in this movie.
Hmm. Oh, I mean, it's a very tight movie.
You know, you're 9 minutes in, and you've already gotten your occasion for your quirky, weird occasion for story out of the way.
Hmm.
And we don't know a ton about this couple. And do you want to? Do you need to? Like,
Oh.
they're and they become real sympathetic, but not until they're dead. It's kind of interesting that you don't really care about them until they die.
Hmm. You're not glad they're dead, is what you're saying, as Tim Burton would say.
Well, actually, you are glad they're dead because
Oh, because
they're not any fun until they're dead. Now I can't like at first it's like, oh, they've fallen into the river, and if the movie had pivoted and it became about completely other characters after that, you would just be like, well, that was an amusing gag.
Mhm. Very true. Here's the best Dune movie.
Yeah, I've always wondered how much the screenwriters and Tim Burton were thinking about that material, because I don't know how you do giant sandworms and you're not thinking about doing.
Oh, it's gotta be, I would think.
And then, like, why Dune, of all things?
Um,
Is there just something like inherently nightmarish about that image, or
I
inherently
guess.
alien and weird? Where you're like, if
I
we're
mean
gonna,
that part. Yeah.
yeah,
They are really cool sandworms, but I don't know why you get to that place.
I think the big original idea that this movie has that immediately stands it apart from other, afterlife movies, movies that speculate about what happens after death, is the idea of the mundane bureaucracy of the afterlife. That it's just the DMV. It's just sitting around in a waiting room forever. And I feel like it's been depicted that way more since then.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And I'm sure that is probably somewhere before this, but
Yeah, but I think it really popularizes it.
yeah, no, I agree.
No, you're right. It's maybe not a wholly original concept, but it feels very fresh in this.
Hmm. Well, that's one of the best aspects of this movie is Juno. She's one of the best actors in
Yeah,
this.
no, she's great.
Wolf 'em out yourself.
This viewing in preparation for this, I found myself thinking about Ghostbusters all the way through it, and I don't know why I'd never really had that before. And some of it is just they're made not too far away from the same time, and so some of the filmmaking techniques for creating supernatural creatures and landscapes and things are the same. There's some sound cues that are really similar, even though it's totally different. Composers
Posers.
and there's a lot of like lighting choices and things that remind me of Ghostbusters. But it also had me thinking, there's no reason these two things couldn't be in the same universe, except that this place does look, more obviously Tim Burton stylized, but like a place that doesn't really exist. But you could just go far enough out in the country in the world of Ghostbusters and wind up here, I think.
Yeah. There's 30 minutes of unrecorded material from last night after the show of Cap and I pitching a Ghostbusters and Beetlejuice movie.
I
What?
wish I had just hit a record button during that. At one
Yeah.
point, I got Escape from New York in there. I got Snake Plissken mixing it up with the Ghostbusters.
Which is still the most unhinged thing crossover I've ever heard of.
That's my pitch. It's Ghostbusters versus Beetlejuice escaping from New York.
Escape from Manhattan, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. But yeah, I love all this, mundane, casual, flippant. Like the afterlife is just another day at the office, and the people that run it can't communicate to you whatsoever how it works. Although some of it is clearly this couple is dense and not
Oh yeah,
not
it's
very
part of their
smart.
fuddy-duddiness where it's like they can't pick up on any of this. I forget who it was. Someone in the
Because
chat.
Lydia just comes in and knows exactly how the handbook works. She has no trouble with it.
Mhm. Well, it's like RJ Godzilla says in the comments, like there's so much that way they don't even know what Night of the Living Dead is.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
all that stuff is so foreign.
But then when he and RJ Godzilla also quoted this, and it's one of my favorite lines too. This book reads like stereo instructions, which is great to call back to it later. The way that pays off is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And now we curiously have the mom from Home Alone married to the villain from Howard the Duck. Yeah, something else.
Yes.
What a weird couple. By the way, I don't buy that these two people stay married. She's been remarried once, and I think she will remarry again.
100%. But Jeffrey Jones, the husband, is in like every Tim Burton movie for a long time until he's not. But
oh yeah. So tell me if you have this. It's odd to me that this woman, I never remember character names in this movie. Delia, that's right.
Delia, yeah.
It's odd to me that this woman with her bizarre gothic macabre sculptures and her goth dressing daughter. I can't remember, is it her daughter or is it...
No, she's the stepmom.
She's the stepmom, that's right.
Because I think there's an added plot in the musical about Lydia's mom.
Oh, okay. But it's, well, yeah, musicals always add extra subplots to things.
But I just mean
I'm sure they got into Beetlejuice's backstory in that too, right?
Yeah, that I'm not sure.
I bet they did.
Probably.
But anyway, and he was supposed to have more of a backstory in this movie originally. There's stuff about it in the script that goes in the first draft script apparently that goes beyond just his being his working for the caseworker lady.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good that's not there.
I'm glad they left it out. Yeah, I really
better vague.
I really like leaving that ambiguous. But anyway, the point I was going to make about Delia is it's weird to me that she doesn't like this house.
You think so?
Yeah, because all of her sculptures and things seem in the style of a haunted house. I mean, maybe it's just that she doesn't like the decor here, and like, fair enough, and she's wanting to change the decor, but she's talking about it like she's just making the best of like a really drab, horrid looking place, and her husband just wants to get away from it all, and that's why they're there. And I get that she's a city person, but this place actually looks like she belongs in it to me.
Oh, interesting. I don't have that just because it's like so old school. While she's like smooth, modern, and more hellish. But fair enough.
Yeah, I'm just stuck on the sculpture thing. I can't get my mind around the fact that she's building these things that look like they came out of the mind of Tim Burton, where the rest of the movie is also out of the mind of Tim Burton. Like it's very strange that she's just building set pieces for him as a side project.
I don't think the house, when it's like this version, I don't think looks as much like a Tim Burton-y set. Like,
no, that's true. But that's only because it's got this horrible drab decor right now. From the outside, it does.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like the actual house.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the house, more so just because it's like big and pointed.
Yeah. Bob the Hunt $5 super chat. Was Beetlejuice a precursor to the DeVito Penguin, the really pervy villain that would be a tough sell now? Pretty creepy, but not going all the way. That's a good call. I hadn't really given that any thought.
Possibly.
But they definitely have things in common, and if Penguin got less screen time in Batman Returns, he probably works a little bit better. But that is a less is more sort of character, which is why it's really smart that Beetlejuice, even though he's the titular character, is left so much in the background in this, and you're constantly waiting for him to show up. And he's that kind of character where his presence is felt, but you're always waiting for him, so that when he does show up, there's a lot more weight to it, and it's more exciting when that happens.
No, that's very true. They should have done a sequel earlier just to have Danny DeVito Penguin be Beetlejuice's mini-me, because they're so perfect together. They can just run around being perverted.
It's amazing. Yeah, and then that's weird because Michael Keaton is, Batman the straight man in that movie, and that actor played what might be the precursor to Danny DeVito's Penguin. That's so weird. It's really strange. And if you had seen Michael Keaton in anything before this, he totally disappears in this.
Oh yeah, he's like, I did not see Michael Keaton in him until probably high school. Like, even knowing that's who that was.
Oh really?
Yeah, where it's like, I don't know, I just looked at him and I couldn't see it for the longest time.
Okay, Dan Schneider's doing his Dan Schneider thing again. $5 super chat. This is facetious, folks. He's making a joke, okay? He says Jeffrey Jones hasn't been anything in a while. When is he gonna make a comeback? Great actor.
Great actor.
Thomas Lowe says Beetlejuice is
Howard,
more of
it's the Howard the Duck curse, apparently.
Thomas Lowe says Beetlejuice is more of a precursor to Jim Carrey's Riddler. I don't agree with that. Again, I think there's some Jim Carrey-ness in his performance. But the kind of gross, grotesque thing. I was also, this viewing, thinking, oh, he would have been great for Clown and Spawn.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would have been the same performance.
I think so.
Here comes the best designed sandworm with its alien mouth.
Yeah, it's great. There's a really cool stuffed animal out right now with that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they probably are putting out a bunch of merch.
I would not mind having that. Yeah, although to be fair, around Halloween for the last several years, there's been lots and lots of Beetlejuice merch.
Yeah, I guess now that I say that, like,
when you go to Halloween stores and stuff, there's always a whole section.
Oh, you go to Hot Topic any time of the year.
That's true. Yeah, that and Nightmare just dominate.
Tim Burton. Oh yeah.
Like, does this woman have a glove in her hair?
She does. It's a Michael Jackson glove. I think it's like a bow, but it's got like 3 digits on it that make it look like fingers.
She's not even wearing the one glove. That's how evil she is.
Oh yeah, she looks like she's about to skin a bunch of Dalmatians.
So, do you feel like Lydia... I'm gonna ask a few character questions here and there, because characterization with this movie is... It reads to me intentionally kind of thin. This is a farcical comedy. It kind of uses, archetypes and stock characters, though... unique and fun and original enough, but not like, a lot of fully realized 3-dimensional characters, in order to explore a quirky world more than really explore these characters. But is there any part of you, Austin, that needs, a little bit more, like motivation or explanation for Lydia's, like, death wish in the third act? Or is it enough that the people she lives with, her family, are just miserable and terrible? Is it enough that if you had to live with these people, you might also be like have this kind of teenage goth thing and want to kill yourself also?
No, I think it all tracks. With the goth thing, she doesn't have her actual mother. She's stuck with this horrible Cruella de Vil woman.
Yeah, it's true.
And like the only people she has to talk to are the ghosts, and they disappear for a while, and that's when she's like, I think I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it always comes a little bit out of nowhere for me, where I'm like, oh, I didn't know she was thinking that far. I mean, maybe it's just because now there's ghosts. Like, do you think she was at all suicidal before, or is it that kind of novelty suicidal where she's not serious about it, but she has she's a rebellious teenager with goth leanings, so it's on her mind. She goes to a like macabre place in her brain all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, it's probably that, I would think. And then now's the moment where it's real.
And when you find out that there actually is life after death, and you don't just poof into nothingness, I maybe if you were, if you already had those kinds of morbid sensibilities, you might think, well, it wouldn't be so bad.
Mm. Yeah, I could be a cool ghost and fight sandworms.
I buy it a lot more than the girl that does it in the new Ghostbusters movie.
Oh, main girl. Yeah. I mean, 'cause it's like more inherent to the character.
Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Roy Daniel says, this is by note a writer. She's guaranteed to have at least a few screws loose.
That's true. You're lucky she's not stealing things.
This is one of those actresses that, going back to this, is a little bit surreal seeing her this young.
Oh, really? I'm surprised you have that.
Yeah, because I mean, this movie's probably the first thing I ever saw her in when I was a kid, and so she was just this character. And then later on, you see her in things much older, and she's got certain facial tics and things you're used to seeing all the time. And then you go back to this movie, and you're like, oh yeah, she already had some of those.
Hmm.
That's always weird to me with actors sometimes.
Yeah, I think for me,
I just said always and sometimes. Anyway.
I mostly just think of her for this up to the Coppola Dracula movie. And then I find in a lot of things now she just looks like she's high. But so I like, for me it's weirder seeing her older.
Yeah.
That's why I'm surprised that you have the reverse.
RJ Godzilla says, I think Ryder could have played a pretty good Raven. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
If for some reason you would have made a Tim Burton, you would have made a Teen Titans that earlier.
Oh my god, it's the Tim Burton spin-off Teen Titans.
See, now I wish they had gotten Michael Keaton to do like trashy car commercials.
Right?
That would have been great. But the Hot Ones thing is pretty great.
So I have this memory from being a kid. My mom took me to Florida when I was like 8, and there was a big shuttle launch that was happening. So we went to go see it, and we like pulled up to the side of the road, and there was like this little spot you could climb down and watch it. And I just remember there's this guy who was probably just like a drug addict that was running it, but my childhood memory is just Beetlejuice ran it. And it was a guy who looked and talked exactly like Beetlejuice.
Oh, weird.
And yeah, it's very strange. I'm sure he was just like a crackhead.
Austin.
I mean, it was Florida.
So speaking back about economy, it's that's a really smart way just to get in the exposition of how to summon Beetlejuice. Mm-hmm. Because you don't even know on first viewing why you're seeing that, except that the movie is called Beetlejuice, and that's the titular character, and he's got to start factoring into this plot somehow.
Yeah, well, we make the strange choice to make his name different than just Beetlejuice, so they have to find a way to be able to pronounce it.
Yeah. Well, it's odd that the spelling is like the I can't remember if Beetlejuice is a planet or a galaxy, but it's that spelling, like the like the real celestial Beetlejuice, and then the movie goes with the phonetic spelling.
Yeah. Which always confused me as a kid, where I was like, wait a minute.
Or the more phonetic spelling, anyway.
Yeah.
RJ Godzilla, best TV commercial ever. Say it once, say it twice, third time's a charm. That's another thing it has in common with Ghostbusters is that it's got a really memorable TV commercial.
Oh my god, imagine in our crossover
And
they
this
make
is a real
commercial
Ghostbusters moment right
together.
here. This part is so Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Like, even that music cue.
Mm.
I'm
No,
sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Zool just came in. No, I
Right.
said, imagine in our crossover movie they make a commercial together.
Yeah, exactly. Except Beetlejuice will actually be half good at it, and then the Ghostbusters will be horribly mucking up their lines and reading really wooden.
And you'll be like, "Come on, Chuck, you gotta get your line right."
I knew someone in the comments would know exactly what Beetlejuice is. Thank you. Serpo Saga Beetlejuice is a red supergiant star in the constellation Orion. Now, I want to know if you copied that out of Wikipedia or if you wrote that from the top of your head.
Yes, I would too. Stay
like
away
Falcon
from her.
asked Captain America when he gave that speech at the end of Winter Soldier. Did you just come up with that off the top of your head?
Beetlejuice, you got to do better. You can't marry a teenager.
The spelling thing is really clever, though, because you're right. Most people that have never heard of that would look at it and say it wrong, and so they're not going to have any chance of summoning him.
Mm-hmm. Well, because even when they see it, they're like, this Beetlejuice fella.
Yeah, and then he can't even remember what it is. Adam, he keeps saying it wrong. Later, he's like Beetle Meyer.
Beetlemeyer? I want to see that version. Beetlemeyer, Beetlemeyer, Beetlemeyer.
I want to see a haunted house, like a real life haunted house, built to look like the afterlife in Beetlejuice, with the no exit sign.
And Gamora's there.
Yeah. One thing that's really clever about this movie is all of the baked in backstories for these killed characters and how they all died.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they carry around their kill wounds with them. So a lot of them, like, you can see how they died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're lucky that they're not bloated and stuff from drowning.
But it's impressive the line this walks in being family friendly enough. And I don't know how hard Tim Burton was even really working at that, but there were clearly some changes that, whether that's why they did it, whether it was just to make it a more a less mean spirited feeling movie, or to actually be more accessible to a general audience, like you be the judge. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting how still pretty morbid and screwed up some of the stuff is in this if you're really thinking about it, but really easy for a kid to watch it and not be put off by any of that or get nightmares or scared of it.
Yeah, it's like, look at the cool characters that are here.
It's one of those movies that is more layered, and there's another there's I don't even want to say subtext, but there's more to it that you bring to it when you see it as an adult.
Mm-hmm. I also just really like that if you get killed by an animal, the animal's just with you. it's like that guy has that shark, and there was a guy next to him with a rattlesnake on him. That's just really funny.
RJ Gonzalez had a lot of good comments tonight. He says, I guess Otho was right. People who commit suicide become civil servants. They do. That's true.
Yep.
No, it's an oddly clever script with a lot of things like that you wouldn't catch until a second viewing, probably. I want to know how much the shrunken head guy is going to actually be in the sequel.
Yeah, I don't know. They're really selling it on him. That's how I hope to die, is being the shrunken head guy.
But yeah, when I say some of these, deceased characters are really screwed up, like there's like baked in suicides and stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, they're so flippant about it.
Yeah. A lot of this is what I imagine a like Douglas Adams written Afterlife to be like.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely looking at stuff like that.
Like, it's real hitchhikery.
Hmm.
Podcast Lover, $2 super chat. This aired on Cartoon Network, if you can believe it. I mean, I can, because they had that period where they
Yeah.
were showing lots of live action stuff.
This was one of those movies that always played on the Saturday night movies thing, which is why I was saying, like, I'm much more used to it without the F bomb, I
Without the F
guess.
bomb.
There's the guy who hanged himself. I
Oh.
love the spin around where he hands somebody paper.
That's so good. Well, and
now
I've
we're
always
just in
been
a
a
Dr.
morbid.
Caligari hallway.
I've always been a morbid humor guy. I like being lighthearted about death and just being a thing you can't change. We might as well find the humor in it.
Hmm.
But there's also, like, with the Lost Souls room, some kind of sad pathos in it also. So
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
wonder if,
like
sorry,
it's
go
fun
ahead.
to watch, but it doesn't feel like it would be fun to actually be there. And that's what's smart about it, I think, is that it still feels like hell to some degree. Like, it still feels bad.
Mm.
But on the outside looking in, it's funny. So, like, these people, this couple, they're traumatized.
Yeah, no, this is way too much for people who don't even know what Night of the Living Dead is.
But it works because I can laugh at them.
Hmm.
And then they also become a little bit more sympathetic as it goes along. So they're not insufferable to watch. And in certain ways, they get a little hipper as the movie goes along. And they get hipper through Lydia.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah,
they find
exactly.
kind of a middle place there where, like, Lydia becomes weirdly maybe a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I can't. I'll think of it in a minute. Like you said, this lady's performance is fantastic.
Hmm. Yeah, and something I always miss is that she has a slit throat that her smoke comes out of.
Yeah. No, that's messed up.
It's so cool.
What do you expect? You're dead. But I was going to say, Lydia becomes weirdly, like, almost more well-adjusted through the ghosts. And the
Mhm.
ghosts become a little bit hippier and hipper, not hippier, and less, like fuddy duddies and tightwads.
Mhm. No, they're like the fuddy-duddy aspects of Marge, and then by the end they're just Marge.
That's great. Are you aware of what the original ending was supposed to be? Because there's a part of me that kind of wishes that they had done this.
I don't know.
So
What is it?
so originally the idea was the Beetlejuice. I think I could be wrong about this, but I think it's both Beetlejuice and the couple were supposed to wind up in the model at the end, and, like, they would be stuck there and they would live there, and
Oh, okay.
they and the whole idea, the big payoff with it is because they don't have to, there's a loophole now, they don't have to haunt the house for 125 years like they were supposed to. Now they're able to remodel the house in the model to be the way they wanted to live in it, where they're not allowed to live that way because this couple moved in and changed everything.
Mhm.
I almost like that better. But then I also really enjoy the kind of feel good positive ending, weirdly, with a movie like this. It doesn't lose its edge, but where they all end up living as one happy family and she gets, like, surrogate parents out of the ghosts. So, like, I'm conflicted. I like both of those ideas.
I think I definitely like this ending more, just because it feels like more of a payoff. Like you have that bit at the beginning where they don't like go too deep into it, but this couple clearly has issues having children. Where we kind of
Oh.
hint towards that.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. Because
So I think you need them having like a surrogate daughter by the end.
that's fair. Because you have that thing toward the beginning where it's a sore spot for them.
Yeah.
With the stupid woman that we talked over, but the stupid woman that really wants them to sell the house
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
is, like, trespassing.
He's just looking in the window like, I can sell you a house.
Can you explain to me why this fly can talk?
Because it's funny.
It's so weird, right?
No, it's very strange.
It's the most cartoony, like outside of reality thing in the entire movie, weirdly. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because everything else is just, well, there's this clear supernatural component, so you can do anything you want to with the afterlife stuff, but why is there a literal living fly that can talk in the model?
Well, I think it's specifically just a The Fly reference.
Is that because you have Gina Davis?
Yes. Like, it's the original Fly that it's referencing, but
Yeah,
maybe.
but it might still be referencing that just because you have somebody who was just in a Fly movie.
Mm-hmm. They should have had Beetlejuice.
Because that was, what,
become,
a
like,
couple years before this?
Yes, I can't remember when. That's like mid 80s, maybe like somewhere between like 82 and 86, I think. It's somewhere around there.
I'm actually not sure how necessary this scene even is.
That with the dad?
Yeah.
I guess we're setting up like the people that will come in later.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. And I guess setting up that like he really needs a professional win of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's true. And then he's basically going to try to turn this house into Jurassic Park.
They're gonna spare no expense.
Does this not feel like a world though? And this is a really minor thing to complain about, Austin. This feels to me like the kind of world where it should be maybe a little bit easier to prove the supernatural, to prove the afterlife and that there are ghosts. Like the fact that the people at the afterlife DMV have managed to keep all of this a secret is unbelievable to me.
It's very silly. Because part of it's also just they're so bad at it that like that's the only window you have into it.
They're so bad at it.
So bad. They're doing their Michael Myers thing right now, coming in with the sheet.
Well, and it's also weird, yeah, which is hilarious, especially her like. Woo!
And it's funny as a kid, and then funnier as an adult when you realize the innuendo aspect.
Like she doesn't even sound like she's trying to be scary.
Mm-hmm. No.
Also, Barbara is about the most fuddy-duddy name you could come up with. No offense to Barbara Gordon, but
I mean, it's just true.
like, of course her name is Barbara.
The only one is if she went by Barb.
But it's also odd to me. I forgot that was a Polaroid.
It's also weird.
It developed really fast.
It's also super weird that she thinks her dad and stepmom are having sex, and her immediate thought was to walk out with a camera.
Take a bunch of pictures of it?
Take a bunch of pictures.
That's true.
Why was that her go-to?
But
that means this has happened before.
Yeah, does she do that so that she can have blackmail material? Is that why?
I don't know. Another addition to her collection.
Yeah, I don't think even you would have been scared of that. And you're a total fuddy-duddy.
I don't know, they might have been. I like how she's like, if I saw a ghost at your age, I would have been horrified.
I would have been horrified. So it's weird that in... Oh, sorry. One of my favorite lines also is in this scene when she says, I myself am strange and unusual, and then Barbara responds with, you look like a regular girl to me. And then the cut back to her is the palest she looks in the whole movie.
She's like...
It's like she looks more undead than they do.
She looks like a Neil Gaiman character.
And I apologize because I'm basically explaining a joke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing... The jokes are always funnier when you explain them thing. But that makes me laugh.
I know, it's great.
I also just want this model in my house, Austin.
Would it be this specific model or a model of your town?
Oh. Well, as long as it has that AstroTurf stuff,
Oh, okay.
I'm good. That's the important part.
Because if it's your like your town, you can be like, look, there's Brandon's house, and then like a little Brandon's living in it.
He's just sitting around waiting to do a bioexorcism.
Hmm.
And then you have to play charades with him so that you can come up with the name Brandon Grimm. And his last name even sounds like he could be a bioexorcist. His last name is Grimm.
Yeah, and then he gets distracted because suddenly a theater that's playing Back to the Future appears in the model home
Okay, I feel like
or the model city.
any quote unquote tricks they could do to prove that you're not dreaming would not prove that. You'd just be like, well, that was weird. Maybe I'm dreaming. Like what would the trick be? I wonder. Even the excavators look weird in a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, they got like arms.
Yeah, what is that?
No one's operating it either.
That's an aesthetic I've always liked. Is these kind of surreal, uh, what am I trying to say? Like House on a Hill kinds of movies where it looks kind of creepily idyllic, and it's isolated and there's nobody else around, and it feels almost alien in landscape.
Hmm.
I don't know why I really like stuff like that.
I have to show you Cabinet of Dr. Caligari at some point.
I should finally watch that.
It's like exactly where Burton gets his style from, and it's amazing.
Yeah, because then the TV show, which I like a lot, Pushing Daisies, does that, and that's getting a lot from Tim Burton, clearly. This is not a great movie, but Toys does that. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I've not, no.
With Robin Williams.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, you don't? That you would like things about that movie, but it's a bit of a slog. It's just paced wrong, and it's kind of redundant. But it's really quirky and surreal and weird.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to check it out at some point.
It's like, the best way I could pitch it, Austin, is it's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory meets War Games.
Mm.
It's really
weird.
It's really weird.
Beetlejuice's tombstone looks like the starting menu of the game Medieval, which I'm sure was intentional. But that's awesome. Not intentional for this movie.
Right. Some of my favorite stuff in this movie is just when they're actually in the model. I think it's so creative. Mm-hmm. Just in the set building.
We should have gotten a Tim Burton Ant-Man.
I never had this thought before. Yeah, right? Well, and going off of that, I never had this thought before, but they're kind of outdoing, in some ways, Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, and I think it's before that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Was that movie 89?
I think this is before
was it the same year? Mm-hmm. I'll have to look that up. All I'm doing in this commentary is asking questions.
Well, and that movie would have been way crazier if it wasn't Disney and Stuart Gordon was actually allowed to direct it. Or not allowed, because he dropped out of it, but he wrote that.
Oh, okay.
That's the guy who did Reanimator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he wrote it and then had like an executive meeting at Disney, and he was like, I cannot handle these people.
No, I'm right. That was 89.
Oh, okay.
I just love stuff like you see the kind of AstroTurf in the model, and then when they go in it, they have to recreate that huge, and it looks the same. Like, it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's great.
So yeah, we are already halfway through this.
Wow.
You're 45 minutes before Beetlejuice actually interacts with our characters. So we have introduced him as a concept and given him a commercial scene, and that's it.
And the reaction to this will be, let's not talk to this man again.
Yeah, it probably should have been. There's a number of places where it would have been really easy for the rest of the movie to not happen. Like, all they had to do was not decide to go into the city for something, and then they wouldn't have died, and there's no movie. All they had
There's
to
also
do...
a version of this movie where he's only in this scene.
That's what I was going to say, is all they had to
to.
do is not be idiots and not conjure him again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, they shop at the same store, Cap.
This is one of the best bits of Keaton's performance, is the one place where he drops out and he just starts talking like Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
You're talking to a dead guy!
Is that joke better now that you've seen The Exorcist? Also, Michael Keaton should do that in every movie, because he's done it in a couple things, and it's always funny.
Yes, Austin. Since we saw The Exorcist, I keep watching it, and it gets funnier every time I see it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is actually kind of surreal that we have done commentaries together on The Fly and The Exorcist, both of which are referenced in this movie.
Oh my god, what was that squishy noise?
I don't know, but it's gross. So to something I said earlier,
yeah.
Leguizamo is looking directly at this for Clown and Spawn.
100%.
Right? No way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it works here is because less is more with that. Like, this character is gross and insufferable, intentionally so. And the performance is so good, and there is, to be fair, funny stuff in it, that, like, I appreciate it while it's happening, but God, if it was constant, if it was the whole movie, I don't know if I could deal with it.
Well, because a lot of the joke is that he's obnoxious. Like, that's not something you can handle for a long time.
No, and that was the problem with Spawn.
Mm-hmm.
He was constantly there and he never stopped talking.
Yeah, I gotta check out the cartoon to see how it handles that.
And that's why
obviously it's toned down because you can't have the sexual stuff.
No, you can't have the sexual stuff.
But I still like to imagine, my headcanon for the cartoon is that's a what-if version where they do get married at the end, and that's why they're just hanging out together.
Somebody in the comments earlier said that Nice Effing Model was an ad-lib.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I wonder if he doesn't have quite a bit of ad-lib, though, because Michael Keaton, and I didn't think of this until this week, in lots of movies, says the phrase "come on" like constantly.
Come on.
He loves "come on."
Yeah.
You can't tell me any of that was written. Or if it was one time, and he just kept saying it.
And it's funny, because in a lot of things, I wouldn't think of Michael Keaton as being like a big improv guy. But then if you watch some of his other movies like this, it's like, oh yeah.
But then there's got to be bits where he just likes to, even if it's not ad-libbing entire lines, he must be sneaking in phrases. Because do we really think it was, and I don't remember from looking at the script, but do we really think it was written, you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. He says come on constantly. He must have snuck that in there.
It's like the Tyler Durden thing. He just sneaks it right in every movie.
I saw some ghosts. Oh, this is the point I was going to make earlier, Austin.
Well, to finish the come on thing.
Apologies. Go ahead.
No, he adds it in every movie, and it keeps getting funnier every time.
Every time I say it.
Go on. What were you gonna say?
I'm also weirdly seeing a lot of like Star Trek Q suddenly with Beetlejuice, just like as an idea, the kind of less is more thing. Like, you don't want that guy to come up too much, but when he does, like, oh my god, here he comes. And also he's omnipotent like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I was going to make earlier is, in the same movie, in the same universe, you have a book that says that the reason that most people can't see ghosts is because they ignore the strange and unexplained, in like the things that bother them. And then at the same time, we're in a world where it is not all that difficult to convince this professional that ghosts exist. He's like, oh, really? There's ghosts? Well, like, I want to capitalize on that. Prove it. He's not even belittling them. He needs proof, but he's like, oh, okay, sure, let's do that if there's actually really ghosts. It seems kind of pretty easy to convince that guy.
I just had a thought thinking about Beetlejuice, because I've been thinking about the Jim Carrey things. I've never had that thought. He's also a little bit more of like a Robin Williams with the improv thing, where he's constantly switching.
Yeah. Well, and you asked about the cartoon earlier. Part of the way they get around it is he's got some of the same kind of humor, but he's not constantly talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And a lot more to the comedy in that show is visual and kind of Saturday morning cartoon stuff. And it may be because this is as adult as it is, seems like an unconventional thing to turn into a cartoon. But like as we're sitting here watching it, there's so much cartoon in this movie.
No, out of like
not really much of a leap. Like, of course, the mask got a cartoon, and of course, this got a cartoon.
No, out of most things that became a cartoon in the 80s, this makes the most sense. Over like Rambo and RoboCop and stuff like that.
And of course, Ghostbusters also got a popular cartoon.
And Ghostbusters makes sense.
And they should have crossed.
Mm-hmm. They should have.
I'm telling you, man, I want that comic crossover really bad now. I thought of that this week, and I'm like, how has that not happened yet? Give me the Beetlejuice Ghostbusters crossover.
It has to happen, like I said to you last night, just to have Beetlejuice go, yeah, busting makes me feel good too. That's like the only reason to do it.
Okay, I've never had this thought before, Austin, and again, I don't know this movie super well.
Mm-hmm.
Why in the world did those people park their cars in that configuration? Did you see it?
Yeah.
Did you see it? There's two cars next to each other, and then there's a car between them at the top and between them on the... I don't even know how you put your cars like that.
What a bunch of weird yuppies. Who does that?
Who does that? So we talked through everybody's favorite scene, the Deo dinner scene, and it's incredibly well choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those actors are so good at pretending to be possessed, where like initially they're terrified about what their bodies are doing that they can't control, and then they start to kind of fall into it.
Mm-hmm.
And begin enjoying it.
His eye acting in that sequence is so good.
And the payoff that they don't run away screaming, but it makes them double down on this idea of turning this into the Jurassic Park ghost house is really great. It's super fun. And it instantly makes me like these people more for some reason. I guess because they're not funny nutties. But also because it's a funny sort of cynicism. Where like, oh no, let's capitalize on it.
And that sequence was one where as a kid I thought it was super funny, but then the shrimp hand thing was like horrifying. So it's like, I want to watch that scene, but I don't want to get to that part.
Let me read these super chats real quick. Checker is $5 super chat. Thanks, man. He says, I wish there was more pathos with the couple. I think this could have been more about something, like a James Gunn tone, if that makes sense. That's always been my frustration with it, and I go back and forth on viewings. Like, sometimes I want it to be more character-driven and more, as you say, actually about something, and it starts to have, to a lesser degree, that 89 problem, where, like, it's nearly there, but it's not actually really about anything but the ride and the novelty. And as Roger Ebert put it in his 2-star review, he did not love this movie, that it kind of degenerates into a movie that's just about the gimmicks. But then some viewings, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it works for this movie. Would it have been really good if it had something like that? Like, yeah, sure. But I don't know. I think it works fine with the movie they're making.
Yeah, I guess the question is, does it telegraph well enough that it's going to be more than anything a farce at the start? Because Ebert didn't feel like it did. He was like, I'm really with it for the first 15 minutes. and the way the couple dies and their plight and figuring out the afterlife. And then once Beetlejuice comes into the scene, it's just kind of gimmick after gimmick. I'm
I
not
mean,
bothered by it as much as he is, but I kind of get where he's coming from.
I mean, in the first 9 minutes, like we talked about, you have that scene where they get killed by a dog standing on a plank of wood. Like, I don't know. Roger Ebert can be a bit of a funny daddy.
He's relating too much to these losers that bought this house, is what
Yeah.
Austin is saying.
He's like, I want the movie to just be that.
I'm going to kind of refine a point I started to make earlier and just say
Yeah.
that I appreciate the balance in all of the morbid stuff being very funny but still morbid. Like it never loses the edge of it. So like we have a lot of fun watching these people get possessed, but there's still something disturbing about that.
hmm Yeah, I agree. And the movie remains funny, but I think still has stakes by the end when they're getting exercised.
Yeah,
Same with
and that's when you
Beetlejuice is
feel the
funny,
most
but
for
he
those
is
characters. That's
legitimately threatening in the climax.
I'm sorry, I talked over you. What was that?
No, I just said same with like Beetlejuice is really funny, but also genuinely threatening in the climax.
Yeah, the only thing frustrating about how Beetlejuice is handled toward the end is that I feel like the movie wants to do more big ambitious things with him and just does not have the budget or the ability.
Oh, okay, interesting.
That scene, like when he does the carnival stuff, it's great.
Mhm.
And the business with like the big long arms and the hat and all of that, like it's awesome. But I feel a frustration in the movie where I'm imagining like 19 more things they wanted to do past that they just couldn't afford to do.
hmm Yeah, interesting. I've never had that, but I can see where you're coming from. I guess it's also hard because he like takes out everyone with each thing, so it's like, how do you keep contriving a way for that to happen?
Oh, that's a good point
But you
too.
maybe could have gone bigger when with their actual wedding,
Yeah.
but I think it works
Or
how it
just have the
is.
carnival stuff go on longer and have more examples of it
Yeah,
before he starts taking anybody out.
yeah, that's true too.
He's also as much of an idiot cartoon character as everybody else in this movie by the end, because there's a lot of stuff that his powers allow him to do that if he had just led with, he might have not have gotten beaten the way he did. Where it's like, well, if you can just transport people anywhere you want to, why would you start with gagging their mouths so they can't say your name? Just get rid of them in the first place.
Well, I found out today that's like a last minute addition, the where he teleports her into Saturn.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, there's like a whole thing, and like it's shot, like it exists, where she gets the thing on, and then she runs outside and gets a sandworm, and it was just
Oh.
simplified.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because I always thought that was a little too easy that he just
hmm
teleports people. Well, wouldn't you lead with that every time?
I mean, he still teleports Alec Baldwin into the model home, but like there is a version where he doesn't do that with her.
Also, to a point that Connor made to me off camera the other day, there there's a thing this movie does where it's able to kind of cheat with rules, and I don't really care, and I'm surprised I don't care. We're like, there's a lot of things I don't know why they're happening.
Oh yeah, that
Like,
was also in the Crow spoiler cast. I remember him talking about
oh,
that.
okay, we did all this on camera, but just did the wrong video. Okay,
No,
I
because it's part of the joke where it's like it'll throw
yeah,
out something
where
that
it
like
just he doesn't even
would
commit to
matter.
rules, but it's a farce and it's constantly telling you that, and that's part of the gag. So it's like, well, sometimes you have to do this, but sometimes you don't. I don't know why Beetlejuice is in the model. Do you?
Because he needed a home.
I do like that there actually is an explanation for why this like porno place shows up. Because having not seen this in a while, I was like, oh, that's just gonna be there for no reason.
Yeah, whenever I watch it, I always forget that there's an explanation. I always go, "Oh, Beetlejuice like summoned this, I guess," and then like a scene later, we'll be like, "Oh, that's right. Juno did.
Juno built it. Yeah.
This is also one of the best gags in the movie is the football team.
Yeah, it's really funny. I don't really understand why they show up in the dancing part at the very end, except just that maybe Burton or somebody thought that they were too funny to not bring back somehow. They come back like Force ghosts.
I know, and it's funny.
It is funny, but why are they there?
Because they're enjoying death now.
Why would they even know about that house or those people?
They thought their coach was there.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that whole thing is funny. Where they keep thinking that she's their coach.
I'm not your coach. He survived.
And then when you get to the end, and he goes, "I don't think we made it out of that crash."
You think?
So good. Can't you read signs? She's so good.
Oh, she's so funny.
It's sad that obviously she can't be in the sequel.
Oh yeah. No, true. That's gonna be weird. Like, there's just
I mean, I didn't look that up,
but
I'm gonna assume that actress is dead now.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. That is gonna be weird. Like, doing the decades later sequel where you bring everyone back is they're just like half of this cast you can't bring back.
And some of them are characters that there's no easy way to write out because they're immortal now, essentially. Like, they wouldn't age. I'm still wondering what the explanation is going to be for the ghost not being there anymore. The Maitlands, because, well, they're supposed to haunt that house for 125 years.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't they there anymore?
They're done. 100% we'll just ignore that, right?
I want to think there has to be an explanation for it in that movie. We'll find out. I don't want to talk about it too much now.
I like that interview, though, with...
I will tell you, though, if you're right, I'm going to be real disappointed.
I like that interview, though, with Gina Davis where somebody asked her about it, and she's like, no, I'm not in the remake.
I'm not in the remake. Which suggests that she's upset about it and hasn't even seen any advertising or watched a trailer.
See, the way she said it, and it's reading it, so it's hard to tell, but the way I read it was more so... was not that, but just like her brain just goes to remake because of what it is, like the decades later sequel thing, as opposed to just a sequel. But
by the way, this high school poetry kind of suicide note is very accurate.
Oh, like you rip it up and then you write it again, and then you rip it up.
And just the word choice she's using is very realistic.
I just noticed through the window when you're facing the couple, there's like a Blues Brother in the hallway behind them waiting to get in here.
This was the most memorable scene for me as a kid. This is the bit that sticks with me.
Oh yeah, the image of both of them is very memorable.
Because it's when you're little, that's kind of disturbing.
Mm-hmm. But it's disturbing and funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Where, like, he has a really goofy face, but it's also messed up.
Well, you know what we'll talk about it later. You know what the funniest design in the whole movie is?
What's that?
To me, anyway. The like skeleton, the tiny skeleton guy that marries them at the end.
Oh my god, yes!
He's so
that's
funny.
My favorite character in this movie, Cap. Of course it is.
The way he moves is adorable.
Yeah,
so
it's
good.
Tony Cox. He's awesome.
Dan Schneider, $2 super chat. Jeffrey Jones requested she take the pictures. I had to say that out loud. Thanks for the super chat. Oh, we got a spam bot I got to deal with here.
Yeah. I didn't want to stop the commentary to say it, but yes, there is.
Oh, that's all right. Thanks, man. So I guess this is kind of an obligatory question. We've been dancing around it, but So do you think do you agree with me that Beetlejuice has kind of the exact right amount of screen time?
Hmm. No, if it's any more, I don't think it works as well. He's like perfect side character material.
Because again, contemporarily, and maybe he changed his mind later. I don't know. I don't know that he ever would have gone back to this. But in Ebert's review, he said he didn't even think the Beetlejuice scenes matched the rest of the film.
What? Eber gets so like I don't know. He has some weird takes sometimes.
Sometimes.
Wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and then we'll turn around and say something completely whack.
That's why you're almost better off if you're a critic and you never write anything. Because as soon as you write something, if it's too far in the ballpark, especially if it's like weird and out there like that was.
Well, no, that's a case where it's like, how did you write this? And like, stuff like it is the things that you hate.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, yeah, like I don't know, it's so weird.
And you just get in this like real, kind of scholarly, uh, like college professor plays of why isn't your movie about more
Mhm.
and not just a bunch of weird gimmicks. And I'm like, but you wrote that though.
Hi, how are you?
Dan Schneider, Ebert also loved Good Burger.
Yeah. Also, if you want to see something really funny, watch the Siskel and Ebert review
Lydia,
of
you're
Home Alone
looking
3.
at Juice. How is Juice not the first thing you said?
Why
It's
Why
Juice.
is breakfast the first thing you went through? Maybe you should have just went through with it. You're so dumb. You don't think of juice first.
Are you worried that because sensibilities have changed so much, we're so much more sensitive about like sexual raunchiness and chauvinism and that kind of thing, that Beetlejuice ends up too watered down in that sequel?
Well, I just saw a review right before we got on saying that Beetlejuice 2 is a really sexist movie, so I'm going to assume probably not.
Okay, well, I admire that then. If they didn't shy away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not me saying yay chauvinism. That's me saying, but that's the character though, and
Mm-hmm.
characters can be bad and do bad things.
No, with him, I'm more worried that he's going to be there the whole time, and you don't want that.
I don't want that, but if it has to be like that, at least if he's not the hero, that'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
Although, could they get to a cartoon like an actual Beetlejuice cartoon place where they like pivot and get us to a place where he's sort of more the hero? Like, I guess I don't
Beetlejuice
really.
and Winona Ryder finally get married, and then they're just hanging out together on adventures.
That sounds amazing.
Let's go on some adventures, babe.
They have these faces for a shockingly long amount of time.
Well, then you have the awesome transition here with Alec Baldwin.
He just keeps the nose.
Yeah, it's Pinocchio. Alec Baldwin should have been live action Pinocchio instead of CGI for the Disney remake.
I mean, I have nothing to add. That's just correct.
That is just correct.
Yeah, obviously.
Like
Could
a
you
7-year-old man saying he wants to be a real boy.
look? We've only got 20 minutes left in this commentary. Could you quit just stating the obvious so we can get on to some more complex, interesting conversations?
It is crazy that
Everyone knows this already.
Everyone knows. It is crazy we're already into the climax.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I knew it was gonna be like this.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was gonna feel like just jumping into a wormhole.
Jumping into a sandworm hole.
It was right there. How did
Also,
I not
why
say it?
is Delia dressed like Boy George in this thing? That was all I could think of when I was watching it the other day. I just don't see her as a big Boy George fan.
No, everything about that outfit is weird. See, I don't really understand this character.
I mean, it's funny, but like, why?
I want to know if people are buying her sculptures because I feel like she should be a poor person.
Hmm.
And are we doing some kind of social commentary with like modern art?
Yeah.
Where it's totally arbitrary and I wouldn't buy that, but apparently people do, and it's like ridiculously, shockingly expensive.
I mean, it could be like all their money comes from him, and she just does the stuff, and it's not really selling, so she just has all of it. But she
Yeah,
gets pretentious people like Otho.
and they just act hoity-toity and above everyone else, and
Like
hardly
their Boy
anybody else is
George.
buying it, and they're just feeding off of each other.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Jason and I were watching this the other day, and we're like, something personal. They have the model. It's right there. He built it.
Would it only be personal for him though?
Oh, maybe so. Maybe so. But in that moment, I don't know that. He just says we need something personal. I'm like, what? It's the model.
Yeah, but then we can have a cool corpse bride thing,
Yeah.
like that other movie, Nightmare Before Christmas.
And this is also a great blend. Yeah, thanks. Look, I can't say anything. We all know. But this scene has that great blend of like kind of silly comedy with disturbing, morbid stuff, but it aims more on the side of the morbid stuff,
Hmm.
and so it's able to go both directions. In order to make you finally kind of feel bad for these people. I think it takes this long, although I think Lydia is warming us up to them. It's so weird how she is the eyes in for the audience, and in any other movie, she would be the most unrelatable character there. I think that's part of the joke, too.
Hmm. Well, it's like her and the couple are both eyes in characters for different elements.
So I feel like this is really appropriate
Hmm.
for this commentary. We're sitting here watching Beetlejuice. There is a big ass spider crawling across my floor right now.
Oh, is it walking around like bum, 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 bum?
And then it's like that fly. It just starts talking, but it's humming the theme to the songs. And the spider's walking around like ba 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 ba.
You should let it bite you, and then you can be Spider-Man.
I don't know how if that's how that works.
I
But what
don't
if
know.
it turns out it's from another universe and I'm not the one that was supposed to get bit? That's what I'm worried about.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, the Spider-Verse movies do that with Miles
Oh,
Morales.
oh, okay.
He was not intended to be bitten by that spider.
Oh. The scene also still remains to be funny because it is funny when his jaw falls off.
Why does she turn so much faster than he does?
Just because she's been here longer. Because, like, over time, he still becomes like that.
And also, what was this spell supposed to do? Just make them appear?
Well, yeah, I guess just. Well, that's what he thinks. But then it's just a full exorcism because he didn't read it fully
Okay.
through, I guess.
Well, that's because it read like a manual.
He's the bad guy from Doctor Strange.
Or I'm sorry, what was the line? It reads like
Stereo instruction.
stereo instructions. There you go. John Kelly, that's probably the spider Adam threw out the window. So apparently in the original script, it was a lot easier to conjure Beetlejuice in the first place. All you had to do was exhume his corpse.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't have the three name thing?
It still does, but I think like once he's exhumed, that's just how you get him to come to you.
Oh, I see. Like you do it once and then after that you just go to his grave.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha.
And I like the three name thing. Like it's kind of cool. All the, uh, honest to god, kind of horror fables that this movie goes to, because the three name thing is very like Bloody Mary or something.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean it's a good thing to kind of sell your movie on too, just from a marketing perspective.
Yeah. This is another place where I can see why the commenter earlier was thinking about the Penguin from Batman Returns.
Hmm. Yeah, he's just one of the henchmen from that movie.
Yeah.
And he's got bat ears, and the light behind him is like how we always see the Batman triumphant posters.
Okay, that whole thing was a slight stretch, but having
Oh, that was 100% intentional.
but having a hat that spins around like a carousel like that's very Batman Returns.
He's also a clown who's got balloons.
Yeah. Well, I didn't notice the slide whistle until I heard this in headphones.
Yeah, I've really noticed how cartoony every sound effect around him is with headphones.
Yeah. This is why I won't do two shows anymore.
I won't do it.
I won't do them.
That's the best part about that.
He's so funny.
Now he's just like David Letterman.
That's the one context where I would watch more Beetlejuice.
As if he was a
Late
TV
night talk
host.
show host. I would watch that.
That's a streaming show. Get on it, Max.
Get on it. That's the kind of that's the kind of oversaturation I can get behind.
But would he be talking to like fictional characters, or would he be like it be just like a regular talk show where he's talking to like people promoting their new movies?
Well, I would do it like Space Ghost Coast to Coast,
Hmm.
where he's like stuck in the model or something, and he's having to talk to people remotely, and you edit their part of the interview to match whatever he's saying.
Oh, so yeah, I'm like, I want it to be like just straight up like a David Letterman, where he's got like the set, and he's sitting there, and he's like talking to I don't know, The Rock, and he's like, "I hear you're here to show off a clip of Black Adam.
That'd be good too.
Let's see it."
John Kelling says this is also the only time in the movie he wears the striped suit. I meant to say that a second ago.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, that's the big look everyone remembers. I'm sure he will wear it through most of two.
Yeah, I wonder how many different costumes he'll have in that. But to be fair, part of the reason we remember that is because that's the box, that's the poster.
Hmm. No, of course.
And yay for old school stop motion, which I think Burton did quite a bit in early movies.
Someone earlier said just this and Pee-wee,
Oh, is that right? Okay.
which I guess is true, yeah. But he probably has more of that image because of Nightmare, which
Nightmare.
he didn't direct.
Right. Oh, here he comes.
There's my favorite guy, yeah.
This guy's amazing.
I like that they put in the like wedding song into the score there, but it's mixed with the like bim, 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 bim.
Yeah.
That's great.
Your wedded wife.
Your wedded wife.
With the arms?
Yeah, where his hands clearly don't bend.
He's adorable.
I love him. No, of course I like the tiny priest guy that Beetlejuice pulls out of a wall with a big head.
Yes, I love that man of mine.
It's also a cool setup and payoff with him doing that where he puts his voice through Gina Davis earlier in his first scene.
Oh yeah, good call. I didn't think about that.
Now we have Joker's laughing teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how
Hey,
much
guy.
stuff that's in this movie will wind up in 89 right after it.
Hmm.
I really wonder what that movie would have looked like if he had made it second like he almost did.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, you just do this in the first place. I mean, just get rid of her in the first place.
Gina Davis, that's kind of your fault. He gave you like 30 seconds between the second time you said it and when he hit you with that.
How hard would it have been to just say it again?
Just say it really quick.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? And we were talking earlier about how ambiguous the rules are intentionally. I don't know how far his powers reach. I have no idea what Beetlejuice can and can't do.
I assume he can only do things right in front of him. Like he can't like reach across the universe and do things. But yeah, it's very vague.
Yeah, but even right in front of you, like, could he have, to your question earlier, if he had wanted to, could he have created like that prostitute building?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know if he could like summon all those prostitute people.
Yeah. What's the extent of it? It's the same question I have with the mask.
Hmm. There's something funny about this guy just hanging out with them now that Beetlejuice is gone. Like, I know it just happened, but it's just a funny image. Like he's just standing there, like, eh.
I hope he shows up in the new one.
Tony Cox is still around. He could. Not that you need him specifically.
Yeah, I was gonna say anybody. You just need a little person to wear that outfit. Austin, how's this movie already almost over?
I don't know.
It really gets in and out.
They all have like their preppy uniforms, but she's the only one with a black sweater.
I don't know, the ghost is the surrogate parents thing. It's like weirdly endearing and heartwarming, and also messed up if you think about it for any amount of time.
Well, where do the other two live? Because as a kid, I like the way it plays. I was like, do they just live in like the basement? Like, where are they?
Yeah, I assume that this couple still primarily lives in the attic,
I don't know because it seems like they get
but they're all over the house.
front of the house. Yeah.
Well, and then the question is, is everybody able to see them now that they believe in them? Because you never see that. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't interact with anybody but Lydia, even though they all believe in and accept them now,
Hmm.
and are fine being possessed sometimes.
It's hard to say. I mean, it could still just be Winona Ryder. Oh.
Her art got better.
He's just made a mold from the actual Beetlejuice.
Yeah, you're right. What part of the house is this?
What's like the main front room?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. And also, why are they so obsessed with Mary Belafonte?
Because they're old fuddy duddies. They just like old music. They like their records and talking about old things.
I will say, I listened to half of that record today, and it's not bad.
Oh, nice. So should we discuss our debate about
Yes, let's do that debate live right now.
So I think that this guy died by having his head shrunk, while Cap thinks that he died, became a ghost, and then his head was shrunk in the afterlife.
It seems very convenient that there's this like shaman or whatever he is that can shrink your head that would be sitting right next to a guy that just happens to have a shrunken head. And
But I think that
Beetlejuice.
they both died at the same time, like, because with his look, like
Oh.
he looks like a Alan Quarterman type, like safari guy. So I'm like, well, they both like killed each other, right? That's just always how I read that.
Okay, well, either that or a member of the insane clown posse.
Well, I mean, I hope so. If
Could have
the
been that.
Mount Posse aren't in the second movie, I'm gonna freak out.
It goes without saying, but Winona Ryder is so committed to this performance.
Hmm.
Like, it's so good.
Oh yeah, she's great.
But yeah, why are the football players there? And then Max wanted me to watch 89 right after this, which is a double feature I should do at some point.
That would be a pretty good double feature.
Because I was fascinated, like I said, by some of the 89 things that I saw on this.
Hmm. So I watched this and I was like, I want to rewatch Ed Wood because it's my favorite Tim Burton movie.
I've still
But,
never
like,
seen that.
oh, you need to. It's so good.
I did finally watch Edward Scissorhands during COVID.
And I've never seen that. My sister loves it.
I liked
but
it a lot.
yeah, at some point I need to rip that Band-Aid off and watch that.
I would say I probably like that movie a hair over this.
Okay.
RJ Godzilla, I say he died by having his head shrunk. Voodoo is the word I couldn't think of. Thank you. And the voodoo guy might have been the guy who shrunk his head. Well, that's what Austin thought.
Hmm. Yeah, we had like an hour-long discussion of
We
this
did not
last
talk
night.
about that for an hour. You're probably right about it.
But I don't know because it's. One
I
of
wasn't
those
sticking to my guns or anything. I was just telling you what I thought when I was watching it, and then I had not considered the theory you had.
But that's what I had. Like I've never considered that, so it's like not even something that like was even in my radar. It's just,
Yes,
this is
you're the
what
other
it
way.
is.
Who knows? Dan's Dan early. Burton is peak Burton. Yeah, certainly.
I feel like I'm in like a weird late, early Burton thing because
What does that mean?
well, like right at the end of his, like where people like him because my favorite
Yeah.
Burton movies are Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow.
So you like the mid '90s stuff?
Yeah, what's the other one he did with Ewan McGregor that's like not like a Tim Burton movie at all? Big Fish.
Big Fish, I like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then probably like Beetlejuice and his Batman movies. So like I feel like I'm kind of in that middle of like right where he gets really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. And I would have to go back and probably look at some of his catalog that I've not seen. But I'm not even sure what I would say his best movie is of the stuff I've seen. It might be Scissorhands though.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to check that out.
And like I almost want to say Big Fish, but again, like you said, it's not really a Burton movie, or it's not in the same. It's hard to compare it to everything else because
it's so different.
So different, yeah.
Yeah, when you should watch Ed Wood just because you're making a movie. Like that is the type of movie that you watch it, and when you're doing your own stuff, it's like there's so many lines that will come to you from that movie that are so funny.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I should watch that then. Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. Thanks again, man. He says, "How would you rank Beetlejuice compared to other comedic supernatural characters like Disney's Genie and The Mask? Can we get a tier list?" A tier list is a fun idea.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I mean, The Mask is definitely one of my favorites of those. And then I feel like you'd have to put Q in there if you can go to TV. If we're only doing movie stuff, though, I'd have to kind of scratch my head for a minute and think of who else would even go in that list.
Like Freddy Krueger would be high.
Impish. Yeah.
Genie. I'm more so trying to rack my head around, like, who are the really bad ones?
Kazam.
Oh, Kazam's like S tier, easy. Nah, I've never seen that. Um,
We should do a blind commentary on that because you like Steel, and that's the other thing like that he did.
it should have been a Shazam movie though.
Well, yeah, but it's a genie thing.
Oh, I know, but don't like change it to be Shazam. Just call it Shazam.
Oh,
And we
okay.
can say it
Okay.
is a Shazam movie.
That went by too fast.
That's crazy.
Sometimes when we have shorter things like that, I feel like I'm not that we should actually do this, but I feel almost like you could put it on a second time and get to all the stuff you didn't get to.
Okay, everybody put Ed Wood on timestamp 0.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna marathon early Tim Burton movies.
No, we're gonna marathon late early.
Late early. We're only gonna look between the years of 93 and 97.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We're into the Christina Ricci era. Not that she's in that, but
Right, but that's the Christina that's the era of just film in general we're in.
mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
She's in everything.
Yeah, when she's in Sleepy Hollow, so that's why I went to that. But
I forgot about that. I only ever saw that one time.
It's really good. It's
I
got one
remember
of the best
liking it.
walking
Okay.
impressions.
I was gonna say I
Not
remember
impressions,
Walken being
well,
kind of nuts in it.
yeah, because he doesn't speak. He speaks in roars.
That's so weird.
Where he just walks around going, ah! It's awesome.
Well, Austin, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for indulging me with that and jumping into something else for a week. Next week we'll be back for the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. We're gonna do The Phantom, which is a late early superhero movie.
See, it's catching on.
It's catching on. So yeah, we're gonna do that next week, and then like I said, Jason and I and Connor will review the new Beetlejuice probably on Monday. So look forward to that. I don't know if I'm gonna have anything else before that. Some of my family's out of town this weekend, so I've got the kids in the house all to myself. But we put out an extra stream this week, and we've had lots of stuff up lately. So appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And Austin, do you have any final thoughts about Beetlejuice?
Well, I'm just looking at on Crave here. You have like the more like Beetlejuice, and it went to Ghostbusters 1 and 2 and Casper as the first three things.
Oh, sure.
So I was like, maybe that can also fit in there somewhere. But it also drops off, and it's like Barbie and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I don't know that you would like that necessarily if you like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Maybe like Willy Wonka.
I mean, like that's another farcical movie, but I don't know how it's connected to that in any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Casper, sure.
Yeah. Well,
And-
Casper has a Ghostbuster in it, so really that's just the third Ghostbusters.
Sure. Yeah, Casper was one of those like massively advertised up the wazoo movies when it came out that you could not get away from.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, when I didn't think to bring it up, but I always think of Casper when I watch this movie, just because
it was so big.
It was so big. Yeah.
Right at. I guess
it's another ghost
95,
movie
so
that mostly takes place in a house. Sorry, what?
Well, I was gonna say like right after this, but it's 95, so like 6 years after.
6
Or
years
7.
after, yeah. It was that's the same year Batman Forever comes out, and those two movies, the advertising was just all over the place.
And Casper's not great.
No. No, I've never thought to do a commentary on that because why would we?
Oh my god, I just clicked on that, and the more like the continue watching thing under it is the Michael Keaton Jack Frost movie. It's like a whole line of things to follow here.
John Kellen, could the Ghostbusters beat Beetlejuice? I mean, yeah, the question is, could they get him in a trap?
Yeah, I mean they couldn't beat Casper, so I don't know if they could beat Beetlejuice.
Well, everybody, hope you had fun. We certainly did. We'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin the Day Ghost.
See ya, folks.
Bye, everybody. I forgot to turn off my timer. We're not still watching the movie. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, bye. Bye, everybody.